The day started too quietly for something that would change everything. Alaric was humming in the kitchen, low, steady, and maddeningly domestic, while I sat on the couch pretending not to drool over the smell. The air was thick with spice and heat, like every emotion I'd been trying to keep contained. "Stop cooking that," I groaned, pulling the blanket tighter around my swollen belly. "The baby says no. He wants something sweet today." Alaric turned from the stove, eyebrow arched in that infuriatingly calm way. "The baby or you?" "Don't argue with pregnant people," I shot back. "We're powerful and unpredictable." He chuckled, setting down the spoon. "I'll note that under things not to challenge before breakfast. But too bad. I already made something spicy. You loved spicy before." That was before my stomach decided chili equals betrayal. I crossed my arms dramatically, watching him. "Besides, the baby's opinion matters now." He said sugar, cakes, maybe pastries, something with cream. Alaric smirked. "You know, it's uncanny. The baby's cravings sound exactly like yours." I scowled, which only made him grin wider. "You're making fun of me." "I wouldn't dare," he said, but his voice was warm and teasing. Then he reached under the counter and pulled out a small white box, ribbons still tied. "Good thing I already guessed your betrayal." I blinked. "What?" "Pastries," he said simply. "Chocolate-filled. I know you well enough by now." The words made my heart flutter in a way I didn't appreciate. I tried to hide the blush creeping up my neck. "Show off," I muttered, but I was already reaching for the box. He set it in my lap, then crouched in front of me. "Eat slowly," he said. "You always rush and choke when you're pretending not to be happy." I opened my mouth to retort, and then froze. A sharp pain shot through my lower abdomen, sudden and deep, stealing my breath. The pastry slipped from my fingers. Alaric's expression changed instantly, from teasing to alarmed. "What is it?" I clenched my jaw, forcing out, "It's fine. Just a kick." He didn't buy that for a second. That didn't look like a kick. Another wave of pain crashed over me, sharper, longer. I gasped and grabbed the edge of the couch. "Okay, maybe not a kick, maybe a, ow, full-blown revolt." "Contractions?" he asked tightly. I nodded, sweat prickling at my forehead. "Too soon. No, not too soon, just—" I broke off with another hiss. "Okay, definitely happening." Alaric was already grabbing the hospital bag we'd prepared 2 weeks ago, moving with that soldier efficiency that made him both reassuring and terrifying. "Breathe. Deep breaths. I'll call the car." "Don't you dare panic," I gritted. "You're making it worse." "Me?" he shot back, voice calm but trembling underneath. "You're the one in labor and still giving orders." I could barely breathe, but I managed to smirk. "That's called multitasking." He leaned close for just a second, pressing a kiss to my forehead, soft, grounding, before scooping me up effortlessly. "I've got you." I wanted to protest, to say something sarcastic, but another contraction stole my words. So I just buried my face in his chest and muttered, "You'd better. Because if I die, I'm haunting you." His chest rumbled with a laugh that wasn't quite steady. "Then I'll gladly live haunted." By the time we reached the hospital, dawn had cracked open the sky, painting everything pale gold. The maternity ward was a blur of movement. Nurses, monitors, voices. Alaric stayed glued to my side, ignoring every order thrown at him. "Sir, you'll have to wait outside," a nurse said, gesturing toward the hallway. "No," he said simply. "Sir, please, no." His voice was quiet, but the kind of quiet that made people stop arguing. I groaned, half from pain, half from exasperation. "You're making the room hotter with your pacing than my actual contractions." He paused, looking down at me, eyes fierce and wild. "Then I'll burn with you." I blinked up at him through the haze. Romantic, idiot, but romantic. The nurses exchanged looks like they weren't sure if they should kick him out or take notes for a romance novel. When another contraction hit, he was instantly there, hand on mine, his thumb brushing my knuckles. "Breathe with me," he murmured, voice deep and steady. "In. Out. Good." I wanted to snap at him for sounding so calm, but the truth was, his voice anchored me. Every breath matched his, every tremor steadied when he whispered, "You're doing perfectly." Time lost meaning. The light outside shifted from gold to white to dim again. Hours bled together in pain, laughter, and occasional threats of murder. At one point, a nurse tried again. "Sir, please step back." "No." "Sir, he's glued to the floor," I groaned between contractions. "Someone bring a crowbar." The nurse almost laughed before catching herself. "You're very calm, sir," she said dryly. "Inside I'm not," Alaric admitted, voice raw. "I just don't know what else to do but stay." He wiped my sweat with the edge of his sleeve, fingers trembling despite his stoic posture. Every time my breath hitched, his did too. Every time I cried out, he flinched as if stabbed. Somewhere in the fog, I caught his expression, terrified, yet gentle, like a warrior watching a battlefield he couldn't control. The sight broke something in me. I reached out, gripping his shirt weakly. "Hey," I whispered. "Stop looking like the world's ending. You're supposed to be the strong one here." His jaw tightened. "Strength doesn't mean not being scared." "Then you're doing a terrible job pretending." He actually smiled. Small, broken, beautiful. "You always see through me." Another contraction ripped through me, stealing my reply. He bent closer, his voice desperate. "Just breathe. Please. You're almost there." Almost. The word meant nothing. Time was a blur of screaming, sweat, and the weight of his hand locked in mine. And then, silence. A single piercing wail broke through the air, high and new and alive. Everything froze. The doctor said something, but I didn't hear. All I saw was Alaric's face, disbelief melting into wonder, eyes shimmering like someone who had never seen light before. I started to sob before I even realized I was crying. The nurse placed the tiny bundle on my chest, and I felt warmth, softness, life. The baby's skin was impossibly small beneath my fingers. His heartbeat, fast, steady, matched mine. "You did it," Alaric whispered, voice trembling. He reached out, hand hovering over the baby like he was afraid to touch something so sacred. "You both did." I laughed weakly, tears and exhaustion blurring everything. "We did?" "Pretty sure I did the screaming part." His lips curved. "I'll give you that." Then softer, so soft I barely heard him over the baby's tiny breaths. "I've fought wars. Nothing ever scared me like losing you. That hit deeper than the pain ever had." My throat tightened. "That's not fair," I murmured. "You can't say things like that right now." He leaned close, brushing a tear from my cheek. "I mean it." I looked at him, really looked. The fierce alpha, usually so composed, now trembling, eyes wet and bright. In that moment, every wall between us crumbled. He kissed my forehead, the baby's head, and whispered again, "You're my whole world." I wanted to tease him for being dramatic, but my heart was too full, my body too weak, my soul too soft. So instead, I just smiled. Outside, the sun had risen completely, painting the room in light. Inside, the world had quietly changed. The Alpha, who once claimed everything with fire, now held his universe in the shape of a heartbeat and a tiny cry. And for the first time in forever, I wasn't afraid of what tomorrow would bring. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant, warm milk, and sunrise. Somewhere down the hall, a newborn wailed. Nurses murmured softly. Machines beeped in slow, steady rhythms, and the air felt both heavy and tender, the kind of stillness that only happens right after a storm. I lay back against the pillows, sore, exhausted, but strangely calm. The storm inside me had passed. Now, in its quiet aftermath, there was only him. Our baby, tiny, red-cheeked, wrapped snug in a white blanket, slept beside me in a small hospital crib. His breathing was so light it almost frightened me, each rise and fall of his chest like the whisper of wings. Alaric stood near the foot of the bed, tall and tense like a soldier in enemy territory. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by something raw and hesitant. His hands, those hands that had once swung swords and carried me like I weighed nothing, now hung uselessly at his sides. He stared at the baby as if the crib contained not an infant, but a ticking bomb. I couldn't help the weak laugh that slipped out. "You can hold him, you know." His head jerked up, startled. "Hold? No, no, I shouldn't." "Why not?" I asked, though my voice came out more amused than curious. He looked away, jaw tightening. "He's too small." I tilted my head. "Small is sort of the point, Alaric. He's a baby, not a wolf cub." He didn't move. His gaze kept flicking from me to the crib and back again, like a man calculating risks on a battlefield. Finally, he muttered under his breath, "What if I break him?" I blinked, then laughed outright, weakly, but sincerely. "Break him? He's not made of glass." Alaric scowled. "He looks like he is." I shifted slightly, grimacing at the soreness but unwilling to let the moment pass. "You fought entire armies, Alaric. You faced people twice your size, storms, injuries." He cut me off, voice low. "And none of them scared me like this." That silenced me. He moved closer, step by hesitant step, until he stood right beside the crib. His shadow fell over the baby's sleeping face. He reached out instinctively, then stopped halfway, fingers curling midair like he was touching something sacred. "Go on," I whispered. "He won't bite. Yet." The corner of his mouth twitched, but his eyes stayed fixed on the baby. Slowly, painfully slowly, he lowered one hand. His fingers brushed the edge of the blanket. He froze when the baby stirred. "It's okay," I murmured. "He's just dreaming." Alaric took a shaky breath. "He's so warm." "Babies tend to be alive," I teased, smiling softly. "It's a thing." He ignored the sarcasm. His massive hand, calloused from battle, rough with old scars, moved again, gently tracing the baby's tiny hand. When the baby's fist reflexively wrapped around his finger, Alaric's breath hitched audibly. "He's holding me," he whispered, voice hoarse. "Congratulations," I said. "You're officially owned." He swallowed hard, then looked back down at the baby. The tiny face scrunched up, nose wrinkling, mouth forming a soft, sleepy pout. Alaric's thumb brushed against that small cheek. "He looks like you," he murmured. I scoffed. "Poor thing." He smiled faintly. "No, lucky." I turned my face away, pretending to be fascinated by the ceiling tiles. "You say that now. Wait till he inherits my sarcasm." His laugh, low, genuine, filled the room. For a man who used to command armies, that sound was far gentler than I ever expected. When the baby let out a tiny sigh and nestled closer against his chest, Alaric froze again, then relaxed, just barely. His shoulders eased, his heartbeat slowed, and something shifted. For the first time since I'd met him, he didn't look like an alpha. He looked like a man, utterly undone by something pure. I watched quietly, my own throat tightening. "You're good at that," I said softly. He blinked. "At what?" "At holding the world like it might disappear." He looked confused at first, then smiled in that crooked, helpless way that always ruined me. "Maybe," he said quietly. "But this time I'm not letting it." The baby stirred again, eyelids fluttering open for just a moment. Two hazy eyes, blue-gray, too new to decide their color, blinked up at Alaric. The world seemed to stop. Alaric went still, his breath catching midair. His lips parted like he'd forgotten how to breathe. For a man who'd stared down death itself, that single glance from a newborn undid him completely. His voice came out as a whisper, trembling at the edges. "I swear." He looked up, meeting my gaze. "I'll never let him cry alone." My chest squeezed. Tears stung my eyes before I could stop them. I forced a shaky smile. "You'd better not," I whispered. "You already cry louder than him." That made him laugh, quietly, shakily. He leaned down, resting the baby gently on my chest again, our 3 heartbeats mingling in the stillness. Then he brushed his lips against my forehead, lingering there. "Then we'll both learn together," he murmured. I closed my eyes. The warmth of his breath, the tiny weight of the baby, the hum of the machines. It all blurred together into something unreal. He straightened, still watching us. His expression softened, love and fear and awe tangled in one impossible look. "He's perfect," he said, more to himself than me. "He's loud," I muttered, smiling. "Like his parents." "Like you," I corrected. He chuckled, reaching out to brush a stray hair from my face. "Maybe. But if he gets your stubbornness, I'm doomed." "You were doomed the moment you met me," I said, half drowsy now. He laughed softly. "True." Alaric sat in the chair beside the bed, one hand still resting protectively over mine, the other gently covering the baby's back. His eyes stayed open long after I drifted to sleep. He watched the baby breathe, memorizing every rise and fall, every soft sound, every promise made in silence. And when the baby whimpered, just a faint sleepy sound, Alaric immediately leaned forward, whispering, "Shh, I'm here." It wasn't loud, it wasn't commanding, just a promise. He looked like home. It started again. That tiny, ear-splitting wail that could wake the dead and terrify even the bravest warriors, or in my case, my already sleep-deprived soul. I groaned, pulling the blanket over my face like it could somehow muffle the sound. "No, no, no. It's only been 2 hours. Please, tiny overlord, show mercy." Too late. The cries grew louder, sharper, and somewhere beside me, Alaric moved. I cracked one eye open. Even in the dim blue light of the nursery lamp, my alpha looked ridiculously composed. Messy hair, rumpled t-shirt, broad shoulders stretching as he got out of bed like a hero from a parenting commercial. He didn't even hesitate. One moment I was half buried under pillows. The next he was already by the crib, scooping up our baby with a gentleness that didn't match his usual, "I can wrestle a bear" aura. "There, there, little one," Alaric murmured, voice low and soft. That rumbling tone that used to make my knees weak now apparently worked on infants, too. "Papa's here." I blinked. Papa. He'd been a father for 3 weeks and already sounded like a full-time family man. I couldn't tell if I was charmed or mildly alarmed. "Papa, huh?" I croaked, dragging myself upright. "Congratulations, General. You've promoted yourself." He ignored me, rocking the baby in a rhythm so steady it could have been choreographed. Unfortunately, the baby wasn't impressed. His tiny face scrunched up, his cry hit a new octave, and I was 1 second away from joining him. Then came it, knock, knock, knock. 3 sharp knocks on our apartment door. I froze. "Alaric, please tell me that's not the neighbor summoning demons at 3 in the morning." He frowned. "Stay here." Before I could argue, he strode to the door, still holding the baby like a tiny royal heir, and opened it. Standing outside was our neighbor, tall, broad-shouldered, and shirtless. Because, of course, why not make the night even more surreal? The neighbor's voice came out rough, sleep-deprived, and very annoyed. "Do you people live in a zoo? That crying hasn't stopped for an hour." From the bed, I groaned loudly. "Oh great, the noise police arrived. Maybe arrest the baby for disturbing the peace." The neighbor blinked at me, eyes softening for a second. "I didn't mean..." And that's when I heard it. The unmistakable growl from Alaric's chest. Deep, low, dangerous. Don't look at my mate. Fantastic. One alpha angry, one confused, one omega seconds away from losing his sanity. "Seriously?" I said, rubbing my temples. "It's 3 a.m., Alaric. Can we skip the territorial routine? The baby's crying, not applying for pack dominance." But the two of them stood there, Alaric holding the baby protectively, the neighbor glaring back, like 2 wolves deciding who owned the night. "If someone doesn't shut up," I hissed, "I'll add both of you to the diaper rotation." That worked like a magic spell. Both went silent immediately. Even the baby paused for dramatic effect. 5 minutes later, the living room looked like the aftermath of a very awkward standoff. The neighbor leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. Alaric sat beside me, bouncing our baby like he was soothing a ticking bomb. And me? I was too tired to care who won the Alpha Olympics. "He shouldn't have raised his voice," Alaric muttered under his breath. I side-eyed him. He wasn't yelling at the baby, he was yelling at us, which honestly fair. The baby whimpered again. Immediately, both alphas moved, at the same time. They nearly collided by the crib, both reaching out as if competing in some kind of parenting duel. "Don't touch him," Alaric growled. "I wasn't going to," the neighbor snapped. "I was checking if he needed burping." I stood, clutching the baby against my chest. "Oh my gods, you two are ridiculous. What is this? Two grown alphas argue over a potato-sized human? Should I sell tickets?" The baby gave a sniffly hiccup, then went quiet when Alaric reached out and took him again. Just like that. Instant silence. The neighbor blinked. "Figures, he's quiet with you." I sighed. "See? Even the baby prefers peace over your ego." Alaric smirked, rocking our son gently. Maybe because I'm the one who kept him safe even before he was born. Something in his tone made my heart twist. But before I could say anything, the neighbor huffed. "Fine. Keep your miracle baby and your overgrown pride. Some of us like sleep." I called after him, "Then invest in earplugs." The door shut with a satisfying click. The apartment was quiet again, finally. The only sound was the soft rhythm of the baby's breathing. Alaric still held him, like he was afraid to put him down. His big hands looked almost clumsy against the baby's fragile frame, yet he moved with such care it made something in my chest ache. "You know," I said, leaning back against the pillows, "you look like you just fought a war." He gave a weary chuckle. "Feels like one." He challenged my authority. I blinked. "The neighbor or the baby?" "Both," I snorted. "Right. Well, congratulations, Commander. You won the 3 a.m. crying championship. Your prize, a lifetime supply of sleepless nights." Alaric gave me a look, that rare, quiet look that made his usual steel-softened eyes glow like warm amber. He shifted closer, lowering himself onto the bed beside me, still cradling the baby protectively against his chest. "He likes warmth," Alaric murmured. I smiled faintly. "And you like pretending you're not completely wrapped around his tiny finger." He met my gaze, voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "Maybe I am. Maybe both of you own me now." My breath caught. I wanted to joke, something sarcastic and safe. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I whispered, "Don't say things like that. I might start believing you." He reached out, brushing his thumb along my cheek, rough skin tracing gentle circles. "Then believe it." The baby stirred slightly, his small face scrunching before relaxing again. Alaric leaned down, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "Go back to sleep, little one. Your parents are idiots, but we love you." A tired laugh slipped from me, the tension melting out of my shoulders. "You really are ridiculous." He hummed low in his chest. "Maybe, but I'm your ridiculous." I rolled my eyes, smiling despite myself. "Possessive much?" "Always." The baby sighed in his sleep, tiny fingers curling into Alaric's shirt. I watched them, my alpha and our son, framed in the soft lamplight, and my heart felt like it might burst. As sleep tugged at me again, I heard Alaric whisper, so quiet, it barely brushed the air. "No matter who knocks at our door, no one touches what's mine. No matter who knocks at our door, no one touches what's mine." I smiled faintly into the pillow. Alpha of the year, I thought, drifting off, growling at ghosts and protecting us from imaginary threats. But gods, I wouldn't trade him for anything. And just before I fell asleep completely, I felt it. A warm hand finding mine under the blanket. A silent promise. A home. An hour later, I found Alaric sitting on the floor beside the crib, elbows resting on his knees, staring at the baby like he was watching a sleeping god. "Should I be worried?" I asked, lowering myself beside him. "You look like a monk meditating on the meaning of diapers." He didn't look up. "He's breathing so softly. What if I don't hear him one night?" My teasing mood faltered. "Alaric?" He rubbed his face with both hands, letting out a quiet breath. "Every time I pick him up, I remember the battles I've fought, the people I've hurt. My hands, they've only ever known how to destroy or protect by force." Not something this delicate. I blinked, startled by the raw honesty in his tone. I'm scared of hurting him, he said simply, voice barely above a whisper. The room felt still. Outside, the afternoon sun filtered through the curtains, painting warm stripes across his face. The same face I'd once thought incapable of softness. Now it looked lost. Something inside me twisted painfully. I wanted to comfort him, but instinct made me hide it behind sarcasm, like always. You wrestle rogue wolves but fear a 6-pound creature with drool? I said lightly, bumping his shoulder. A weak smile tugged at his lips. Exactly. Then you're ridiculous, I said, leaning my head against his shoulder. But maybe that's what makes you human. He turned slightly, eyes flickering down to me. You're not afraid of him at all. I carried him for 9 months, I said dryly. I've already survived being kicked in the ribs from the inside. After that, drool doesn't scare me. That earned a quiet chuckle from him. A real one this time, low and warm. I want to be good for him, Alaric said softly. Better than the kind of alpha I was raised to be. You already are, I murmured. You just need to stop acting like you about to enter combat every time he hiccups. He huffed a quiet laugh. That's harder than it sounds. I know, I said, glancing at him. But you'll learn. You're stubborn enough. He looked at me for a long moment, something gentle flickering behind his usual intensity. I have you, he said simply. That's how I know I'll learn. And just like that, I was the one who forgot how to breathe. That evening, while I was folding tiny clothes that somehow multiplied overnight, I heard it. A strange sound. Not crying, not hiccups. Something new. I turned, blinking. Alaric was in the living room again, baby in his arms. But this time, something was different. He wasn't rigid. He wasn't overthinking. He was holding him properly, head supported, body tucked against his chest. His hands moved naturally, his voice low and calm as he murmured nonsense words. And our son giggled. It was soft, breathy, but unmistakable. Alaric froze mid-sentence, eyes wide like he'd just witnessed a miracle. Did he just laugh, I said, smiling so wide my cheeks hurt. He laughed. Alaric's entire expression melted. Every inch of him, from his jaw to his shoulders, relaxed all at once. His mouth parted in awe as he looked down at the baby, who was still smiling faintly in his arms. He likes me? Alaric whispered. Of course he does, I said, trying not to sound emotional. You're his alpha. Then the baby made another small giggle, and Alaric laughed, quiet, disbelieving. He leaned down, pressing his forehead to the baby's tiny one, whispering something I couldn't quite hear. It sounded like a promise. I walked closer, leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, pretending to look unimpressed even though my chest felt full. Okay, I said finally, my voice softer than I wanted it to be. Maybe that's the cutest thing I've ever seen. Alaric turned to me, smiling, not his usual confident smirk, but something smaller, warmer, almost shy. You think so? I think I'm in trouble, I muttered. Because if you keep looking like that, I might actually forgive all the sleepless nights. He chuckled, shifting the baby so he could look at both of us. Then I'll keep holding him like this forever. I rolled my eyes, but couldn't hide the small, stupid grin spreading on my face. Big words for someone who used to think diapers were lethal weapons. He leaned closer, murmuring against my ear. Maybe they still are. But for you two, I'll face anything. I laughed quietly. You're impossible. Yours, though, he said simply. The baby giggled again, as if agreeing. And just like that, the long day, the fears, the sleepless nights, all faded into warmth. The morning started with soft cooing and chaos. The baby was gurgling in my lap, cheeks squished against the bottle I held. His tiny fingers curled around mine with the strength of a determined champion. I smiled, couldn't help it. And then, there was him. Alaric sat on the couch beside me, elbows on his knees, watching us like I'd just betrayed him with a particularly adorable rival. His brows furrowed, his usually commanding presence reduced to pure sulk. "You smiled more at him than you ever smiled at me," he muttered, dead serious. I blinked at him, bottle still tilted. "He doesn't argue about my bedtime snacks." Alaric narrowed his eyes. "I don't argue. I negotiate." "Uh-huh," I said, patting the baby's back. "Negotiating that I shouldn't eat cookies at 2 a.m. doesn't count as romantic, you know." The baby burped. I smirked. "See? Even he agrees." For a moment, Alaric's frown deepened, as if he was having an internal crisis over losing my affection to a 6-pound lump of giggling joy. Then he exhaled dramatically and leaned back. "Unbelievable," he murmured. "My own child stealing my mate right before my eyes. Operation Outcute the Baby." By afternoon, Alaric had clearly decided something. There was a dangerous glint in his eye, the kind he usually got before battle. Except now, the battlefield was our living room. He sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by stuffed animals, rattles, and one very unimpressed baby. "Watch and learn," he said solemnly, as if about to perform an ancient ritual. I sipped my tea, unimpressed. "Oh, I'm watching, with great fear." He picked up a stuffed rabbit and started making voices. "Mr. Bunny says, 'Who's the cutest baby in the world?' Not Papa, that's for sure." I nearly spat out my drink. The baby stared, expression blank. "Okay," Alaric muttered. "Tough crowd." He tried again, this time making exaggerated faces, puffed cheeks, crossed eyes, even a ridiculous wiggle of his ears. I bit my lip to keep from laughing. The baby finally responded, with a loud squeal. Alaric gasped like he'd won an Olympic medal. "He laughed! Did you see that? He laughed at me!" "Uh-huh," I said, quietly sliding my phone to record. "Totally not blackmail material." He turned toward me instantly. "You're recording this, aren't you?" "Absolutely," he groaned. "You're evil." "Evil with evidence," I corrected sweetly. But what made me pause wasn't the silliness, it was how happy he looked. Genuinely, unguardedly happy. His shoulders, usually tense and squared from years of alpha pride, were loose. His laughter echoed softly through the room, mixing with the baby's giggles until I couldn't tell who sounded more delighted. "Who knew?" I whispered to myself. "A 6'4" alpha could pout better than a newborn." Alaric heard that, of course. His head whipped toward me. "Did you just—" "Shh," I said, pointing to the baby. "You'll ruin your fan's nap." He sighed dramatically and sat back down, still pouting. I grinned. Victory, mine. Later that night, the baby lay between us, tiny hands waving sleepily in the air. Alaric was on his side, propped on one elbow, just watching. There was something tender in the way he looked at our child, like he was trying to memorize every detail. The alpha who could silence an entire pack with one growl was now whispering nonsense to a baby who responded only with hiccups. Then, in a bold act of trust, the baby reached up and grabbed Alaric's hair. Hard. "Ow! Hey!" Alaric winced, frozen between laughter and pain. I snorted. "Guess he found his favorite toy." The baby squealed, delighted. Alaric started laughing too, that deep, rumbling kind of laugh that came from somewhere honest. His big hand carefully pried the tiny fingers loose, and then he brushed the baby's forehead with the gentlest touch I'd ever seen from him. Something inside me twisted. Warm, soft, dangerous. He wasn't just protecting us anymore. He was belonging here. I smiled, looking away before he caught me staring. "Maybe," I murmured under my breath, "he's learning what family feels like." Alaric's gaze flicked to me, that knowing look of his catching every unspoken word. "Maybe," he said softly. "We both are." The baby let out a sleepy coo between us, tiny fingers curling in the air like he agreed. For once, I didn't feel the need to hide behind sarcasm. I reached out, brushing Alaric's hand where it rested near mine. He smiled faintly. "Careful," I muttered, pretending nonchalance. "If you get too good at this, I might start liking you again." His chuckle was quiet, low. "You already do," I huffed. "Overconfident alpha." He leaned closer. "Always?" The baby gurgled between us as if mocking our endless banter, and for the first time in a long time I felt complete. Pack gatherings were supposed to be dignified, sophisticated, controlled. That lasted exactly 5 minutes. The hall was buzzing with chatter, the air thick with the smell of roasted meat and overcooked pride. I was standing near the long table, half listening to the elders talk about supply allocations, while Alaric played doting alpha at the center of attention, or rather, our baby did. He sat perched in Alaric's arm like a royal heir at his coronation, chubby cheeks and wide eyes stealing every gaze. The pack warriors who'd once trembled under Alaric's command were now cooing over him like a herd of overexcited aunties. I sipped my drink, amused. A few months ago, they were terrified of him. Now they're debating who gets to babysit. And then it happened. Our baby blinked up at Alaric, and in that clear, sweet voice that carried across the hall said, "Da-da!" The world stopped. Every head turned, every conversation died mid-sentence. Even the pups in the corner froze like someone had hit pause on reality. My drink almost slipped from my hand. He said what now? Alaric looked equally stunned for a heartbeat. Then the corners of his mouth lifted slowly, like sunrise breaking through clouds. His whole expression softened. Pride, awe, disbelief all tangled together. "Say it again," he whispered, voice rough. "Come on, say it again." The baby giggled, clearly proud of causing mass emotional destruction. "Dada!" And just like that, the entire hall exploded. Cheering, laughter, howls of amusement. The warriors clapped, someone actually whistled, and the elder beta wiped his eyes, muttering, "Our alpha's finally been promoted from terrifying to dad material." I just stood there, mortified. The teasing started instantly. "Dada Alaric!" someone yelled. "Look at that proud face!" Another howled. I face-palmed. "Oh, for crying out loud!" Alaric turned to me, all smug radiance and alpha glow, baby still perched like a crown jewel. "You heard that, didn't you?" I stammered, clinging to whatever scraps of dignity remained. "You're all mistaken. He said data. You know, like information storage." The room roared with laughter. Even the elder council snorted into their teacups. Alaric raised an eyebrow, his grin slow and dangerous. "Keep lying, sweetheart. Even the elders heard it." I crossed my arms. "Well, maybe the acoustics in here are bad." He took a step closer, smirk widening. "Or maybe," he murmured, leaning down so only I could hear, "our son just knows who's always there for him." My cheeks went warm, annoyingly so. I muttered, "You're insufferable." He chuckled low. "And you're adorable when you lose." "Lose?" I wasn't competing. Sure, he said, eyes glinting. "You keep telling yourself that." The baby babbled again, clearly enjoying the attention. And every time he did, Alaric's smile just grew. I groaned. This was going to haunt me for months, maybe years. The pack's healer even walked by with a grin. "Congratulations to both of you. You've officially become the most domestic thing in the entire territory." "Kill me now," I muttered. Meanwhile, Alaric was living his best life. He strutted around the hall, baby on one arm like a proud banner, soaking up every teasing comment with that insufferable radiant grin. One of the warriors joked, "Alpha, should we start calling you Papa Alaric now?" Alaric just smirked. "Only if you want double patrol duty." The hall erupted again. And there I was, hiding behind a plate of pastries, silently rethinking every life decision that led to this moment. When I finally cornered him by the exit, he was still grinning. "Enjoying the attention?" I asked flatly. "Immensely," he said without shame. "He called me Dada. You can't top that." I squinted. "Oh, I could. If he learns to say Mama next, I'm throwing a festival." He laughed, low and warm. "You already do enough festivals in my head." My brain short-circuited for a full 3 seconds. "Did you just flirt with me in public?" "Yes," he said, absolutely unbothered. I groaned, burying my face in my hands. "Wonderful. Just wonderful." He leaned down, voice teasing near my ear. You say that like it's a bad thing. I peeked at him through my fingers, trying not to smile. You're lucky I'm holding a baby and not a frying pan. His grin turned softer this time, the playful arrogance melting into something quiet, almost shy. Lucky, yes, he said, gaze flicking between me and our child. Every day. I looked away quickly, pretending to adjust the baby's blanket to hide the warmth creeping up my neck. I could still hear the whispers, the teasing, the good-natured amusement of our pack, but for once I didn't mind. Maybe it wasn't so bad being seen like this, like we were something real, something whole. I sighed softly. Fine. You win this round, Dada Alaric. He chuckled, brushing a kiss against the baby's head, then, without missing a beat, whispered near my temple. And next time, maybe he'll say, I love you first. I froze. My heart did a ridiculous little flip. He smirked when he saw my expression. What? Just manifesting my victory early. Arrogant alpha, I muttered. Hopelessly, he said with a grin. And as the baby slept between us, surrounded by laughter and warmth, I found myself smiling too, despite everything. Maybe this chaos wasn't so bad after all. I woke up at midnight to the sound of humming. Not the baby, the tune was too low, too off-key. Then came the smell. Mashed vegetables. My nose twitched. No sane alpha should be awake at this hour making peas. I shuffled to the kitchen and froze at the doorway. There was Alaric, the same alpha who once made grown men tremble, now standing in front of the stove wearing a ridiculous pink apron that read, Kiss the Cook. He was stirring something green and suspiciously alive-looking, face scrunched in concentration. And yes, he was humming a lullaby. I leaned against the wall. You missed your calling as a chef for tiny humans. He jumped, then turned, smiling sheepishly. You were supposed to be asleep. And you were supposed to not look like a domestic fantasy ad, I muttered, crossing my arms. He chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. He's been fussy. I thought maybe if I made something fresh, he'd stop crying out of respect for your effort? Alaric shrugged. Worth a try. I peered into the pot. What's this? Peas and carrots? Puree, he said proudly. I sniffed. Smells like betrayal. He filled a small bowl and blew on the spoon like a professional, then, to my horror, tasted it himself. His entire face twisted. Why does it taste like sadness? I burst out laughing. Because it's peas, not steak, genius. He shot me a look. You think you can do better? I think I cannot eat it, which is already a better choice. Before I could escape, he scooped another spoonful and held it up with a wicked grin. Open. Alaric, don't you... He didn't move. Sighing dramatically, I took the tiniest bite. The taste hit me like punishment. I gagged. You've weaponized peas! He laughed so hard he nearly dropped the spoon. It wasn't the scary, commanding laugh I used to hear. It was open, warm, real. You're ridiculous, I said, wiping my tongue with a napkin. And yet, he teased, leaning on the counter beside me, you're smiling. I looked away. That's just the sleep deprivation talking. He smiled softly. Or maybe you like seeing me like this. Like what? I asked warily. Hopelessly in love, he murmured. I rolled my eyes so hard it hurt, but my pulse betrayed me. The kitchen went quiet except for the low bubbling of the pot. The light was soft, turning Alaric's usually sharp edges into something gentler. I watched him clean the counter with unnecessary care, humming again. The sound was comforting, familiar. Then a faint cry echoed from the nursery. I'll go, he said immediately, already moving. When he returned, the baby was bundled against his chest, blinking sleepily. Alaric's entire demeanor softened as he rocked him. Hey there, little one, he whispered. Papa was just making you dinner. The baby cooed, tiny fingers curling in Alaric's shirt. Alaric chuckled, eyes bright with something I couldn't name. See? Even he likes when we're together. I snorted to cover the warmth spreading in my chest. He's drooling, not agreeing. Close enough, Alaric said, smiling that gentle smile that always knocked the air out of me. When the baby wriggled again, I sighed and went over to help. Our hands brushed as we steadied the bottle together. Too close, too easy. "Want to try feeding him together?" he asked. "Only if I supervise your pee crimes." He laughed quietly. "Deal." So there we sat, side by side on the kitchen floor at midnight, a tired Omega, a lovesick Alpha, and a giggling baby between us. The air smelled of peas and something sweeter. Peace. I looked at Alaric, his shoulder brushing mine, his eyes soft with unspoken things. "Don't fall for it," I told myself. But watching him cradle our son like the most precious thing in the world, I knew it was already too late. The storm hit that night, rain hammering, thunder growling. The lights blinked once, twice, then died. Darkness. The baby whimpered. Before I could move, Alaric was already there, candle in hand, eyes glowing amber in the flicker. "Stay close," he murmured, checking every window like the sky might break in. I wanted to tease him, commander mode again, but his hands were trembling slightly. He wasn't just being protective, he was afraid of losing us. He sat beside me on the couch, wrapping one arm around me, the other cradling the baby. Outside thunder rolled, inside his heartbeat steadied everything. I should have teased him. Instead, I rested against his chest, listening. The warmth of him, the faint scent of smoke and soap, it all made the world feel smaller, safer. Too safe. The kitchen looked like a flower bomb had gone off, batter on the counter, frosting on the fridge, sugar somehow on the baby's bib. "Don't you dare laugh," I told the baby, waving my whisk. He laughed anyway. On the table sat a lopsided little cake with uneven blue icing. Happy Dada Day. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. When the door opened, I froze mid-whisk. Alaric stood there, tall, tired, and freshly showered, taking in the disaster scene. He blinked. "Did the kitchen offend you?" I scowled. "Don't look at me like that. It's edible, I think." He chuckled, stepping closer. "You think?" I followed the recipe, mostly. "Mostly," he echoed, brushing sugar off my hair. "So this is Dada Day," I mumbled. "The baby's first." For a moment he just stared. His usual calm cracked into something raw, soft wonder. "Dada Day," he repeated quietly, as if testing the words. I turned away before my heart betrayed me. "Yeah, well, don't cry over it. The cake might collapse from emotion." He insisted on helping, which was both a blessing and a new kind of chaos. "Flour goes in the bowl, not on me," I said. He smirked. "You said help." "You're redecorating the kitchen in white dust." "I'm multitasking." I rolled my eyes, but laughter kept spilling out. The baby squealed from his high chair, waving a spoon like our tiny supervisor. When Alaric leaned over to fix the frosting, his breath brushed my cheek. There was flour in his hair, frosting on his jaw, and warmth everywhere. He looked less like the fearsome alpha everyone respected, and more like the man who made the world quieter just by being near. The baby babbled, and Alaric glanced over with that soft, helpless look he got whenever the little one smiled. "See?" I teased. "He approves." "He approves of you," he said. "I'm just backup." I shook my head, smiling. "Backup's important." For a heartbeat, the world stilled, rain tapping on the window, the smell of sugar in the air, and I realized this mess, this laughter, this man. It all felt like home. Later, after we'd tucked the baby in, the cake sat between us, crooked but proud. Alaric cut a slice like it was precious. "You really made this for me?" "Don't make it weird," I muttered. "It's a baby thing." He didn't answer right away, just looked at me, that steady gaze that stripped away all my defenses. Something inside me cracked open. "You were right," I whispered. He frowned softly. "About what?" "About belonging." My voice wavered. "You've been ours all along." His breath caught, and for once the mighty Alpha was speechless. "So," I said, shy smile tugging at my lips, "happy first Dada Day." He crossed the space in one stride, cupped my face, and kissed me, gentle, real, tasting of sugar and everything unsaid. When he finally pulled back, he whispered, "Finally, my two favorite people." I leaned against him, laughing quietly. Don't get too proud, Dragon. Too late, he murmured, pressing a kiss to my hair. The baby sighed in his crib, the storm outside faded to soft rain, and for once there was nothing left to guard or prove. Just peace. Just us. A family. I should have known it was doomed the moment Alaric said, "It'll be quick." Nothing involving a baby and a camera is ever quick. The PAX photographer had come to take our first official family photo. Cute idea in theory, total chaos in practice. The baby was supposed to wear the little white onesie I'd ironed. He decided instead that it tasted delicious and tried to eat it. Alaric panicked, thinking he'd choke, while I tried to wrestle fabric from a surprisingly strong 6-month-old. Stop glaring at him like he's your sparring opponent, I scolded. I'm not, Alaric protested, eyes wide. He started it. The photographer looked 2 seconds away from quitting. By the time we got the baby dressed, Alaric's perfect black shirt was covered in drool and something suspiciously orange. He didn't even care. As long as he's smiling, he muttered, bouncing our son like he was the world's most delicate treasure. And somehow, the baby did smile, wide and bright, like the sun cracked open just for us. I froze. The camera clicked. Then, boom! The flash startled him. The baby blinked, frowned, and let out a wail that could have shaken mountains. Instantly, Alaric looked like someone had stabbed him. He's crying! I made him cry. I rolled my eyes, picking up a tissue. Relax, Drama King. Babies cry. You didn't break him. But Alaric didn't laugh. His eyes softened instead, voice trembling a little. I just never want to be the reason he cries. That stupid, earnest line hit me right in the heart. Again. Then stop looking like you're about to cry yourself, I murmured, brushing my thumb under his eye. The baby hiccuped between sobs, and then, out of nowhere, started giggling again. Apparently, watching his parents make fools of themselves was peak comedy. The photographer sighed with relief. Perfect. Stay like that. Click. And just like that, our photo was done. The baby laughing in the middle, me with frosting still in my hair from breakfast, and Alaric looking at us both like he'd just found something he didn't know he'd been missing all his life. Later that night, when everyone was asleep, I looked at the printed picture. It wasn't perfect. It was messy, blurry, chaotic, exactly like us. I smiled, whispering, "Yeah, this is home." From the crib, the baby made a soft coo, as if agreeing, and from behind me, Alaric's sleepy voice murmured, "Next year, we're doing a pack photo." I snorted. "Only if you handle the drool." He chuckled, wrapping his arms around me and pulling me close. Deal. It happened on an ordinary morning, sunlight spilling through the curtains, the faint smell of coffee, and Alaric trying to convince our baby that socks were not a snack. Open your mouth. Not your toes, he said, patient but already defeated. I sat on the couch watching them with that quiet ache that came from too much love crammed into a single heartbeat. He gets it from you, I teased. Alaric looked over his shoulder. How exactly? You also ignore logic when stubborn, he smirked. Then he's clearly your son. I rolled my eyes, but before I could answer, a small, garbled sound cut through the morning air. Both of us froze. The baby blinked, drool glistening on his chin, and repeated it, louder this time. No. Alaric's jaw dropped. Did he just... I gasped. He spoke! The alpha straightened, clearly expecting Dada, maybe Papa, anything affectionate. But the baby looked right at him, little brow furrowed in fierce concentration, and said again, perfectly clear this time, no. Silence. Then, I broke first, laughter spilling out uncontrollably. Oh, that's perfect. Your son's second word is rejection. Alaric blinked, betrayed. I trained wolves, negotiated treaties, fought battles, and he tells me no? Still giggling, I scooped the baby up. Congratulations, Dragon. You've been overruled by someone who can't even walk yet. The baby squealed happily, clearly proud of himself, and patted Alaric's cheek like a tiny monarch granting mercy. Alaric sighed, but the corners of his mouth softened. Fine, he murmured, brushing his thumb over our son's hand. You win, little one. Just remember, you still have to listen to your... No! I laughed so hard I nearly fell off the couch. Guess we know who's in charge now. Alaric looked at me, mock glare dissolving into a smile. Both of you, he said quietly, eyes warm. Always both of you. And as the baby giggled between us, sunlight glowing around his tiny fists, I thought, if love could speak, it would sound exactly like this.